It's episode 178 of Recotopia. My name is Chris Atkinson, joined by Jeremy Scott.
Hello, everybody.
And joined by Aaron Dicer.
Hidely ho, Yenarinos.
That's right. That's right. Today's big recommend is Iron Monkey from 1993. We'd also like to welcome chat who've come out here to watch us talk about movies on a Tuesday. We appreciate you very much. Let's get on to our small recommends. Jeremy, what do you got?
Somewhere in the late aughts, late 2000s, I gave up on network television, which is not to say I thought it was all trash. I just stopped checking those channels when I was watching television, and I was much more into cable channels, movie channels, etc. And so an entire 22 Emmy-winning sitcom went by me and I never got to see it. That's called Modern Family. It came out in 2009. And Christopher Lloyd, not Doc Brown Christopher Lloyd, but the Frasier producing Christopher Lloyd is behind this show. And it is delightful. It's using the same kind of conceit, if you will, that The Office does, in that they're filming some sort of documentary. And I'm only through the first season, so it may get explained more in future seasons. But I'm not sure any show but Arrested Development has made me laugh this hard, this consistently, episode in and episode out. I don't know if the quality holds up over all 11 seasons, but it's funny with a capital F and in ways most shows wouldn't even bother with. Like, there are throwaway jokes that kill me. There's one episode where Ty Burrell, who's one of the main characters, is talking to his wife, Julie Bowen, and they'd already had a previous reference to his male cheerleading buddies in college who the football guys were so jealous of them they wouldn't let them join the football team. And then later she makes a reference to your cheerleader buddy Len. And we're moving on. The show is moving on at this point. And Ty Burrell's character says, hey, Len was smart. He wasn't a nerd. He built his own helicopter. And if he was alive today, and we cut to something else. I'm rolling at the fact that his buddy Len died in his own home-built helicopter. And to the show, that's just if you catch that, you catch it and have fun with it. If not, we've got bigger fish to fry. And every episode is full of stuff like that. So again, 90% of you are out there going, well, duh, Jeremy, yeah. But I'm here to confess that I missed a really good show, and I have a feeling this is going to be up there with my very favorites once I'm done. But my wife and I are watching a few episodes every week and just really, really liking it. So if, like me, you'd ever been on the fence, take a shot. It's on Hulu, and it's freaking funny as balls.
I watched this when it aired, probably for 4 or 5 seasons, and then at some point, I just decided to drop it from my schedule. I don't think it was that it just fell off that badly or whatever, but like it wasn't a part of my plans anymore or whatever. But I very much enjoyed the first 4 or 5 seasons. I can't remember where I stopped, but I really enjoyed it too. So yeah, and Ty Burrell was basically he had a pretty decent career before this, but like this made him a star.
And then he just
for a while
moved his family into like Wyoming. He like left Hollywood altogether because he was happy, and I'm sure making enough money.
Yeah, I mean, if you make enough money on this, and then like when it goes into syndication and all that, what else do you need to do?
Yeah.
So
it is never too late, Jeremy. It is never too late to find one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. I've watched every single episode of this as it was airing for every season. Because it is so much fun, and the mockumentary style makes no sense.
No,
all the way to the end makes not a bit of sense. What they are doing, following this family for this intense
it allows them
amount of time
to wink at the camera and
of course,
break the fourth wall.
They're like mini soliloquies in that regard, right? Like, you know, in soliloquies on stage, they're not really honestly someone just breaking out of their normal routine to come and yell all their thoughts. That's just their inner thoughts and things like that. So like, you know, but yeah, there are some times, especially when you start doing sins type of stuff of this format and everything, you're like, wait a minute, you were down here and then you decided to take the crew up here to have like your inner thoughts broadcast, and then you went back, and did all this other stuff. But yeah, anyway.
I love Phil. I mean Ty Burrell, and I love the Dunphy family. I love the Dunphy kids. But I think Mitchell and Cam are some of the stuff that they do, some of the back and forth that they have. They are so perfect in those roles. Eric Stonestreet was a revelation to me in this show. He's so good, and really enjoy it. Plus, there's opportunity for others to come play, like. Adam Devine shows up for a couple seasons and he's hilarious there for a long time. Fred Willard, I don't know if he showed up for you yet, no. Jeremy, but Fred Willard comes on the show for a cup of coffee and has a blast. Steve Zahn, Mira Sorvino, just lots of people dropping by to have fun with his family. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome. Eric Stonestreet, by the way, is the dude in Almost Famous who, when gets the phone call or whatever, and gives it to the kid, he's like, your mom just called. She freaked me out. Yeah, that's it. That's Eric Stonestreet in Almost Famous.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
What do you got, Aaron?
New movie called Caught Stealing. This is the new Aronofsky movie. Darren Aronofsky has always interested me, even when I'm not high on his films. I find them interesting, and sometimes I love them. And we recently did an Aronofsky film on this very podcast. But this is different in my mind than any movie he's ever done. It feels more like a straight-laced, not straight-laced, but a straightforward, accessible crime action drama. Austin Butler plays the lead, somebody who is really in that archetype of like the Hitchcock man who gets caught up in things, the innocent man that gets caught up in things beyond their ability. It plays with themes of regret, redemption, and how to heal through that character. Zoe Kravitz plays his love interest in the movie, and she is great. Matt Smith plays a neighbor across the street who kind of is a part of what gets them into this mess. And man, is Matt Smith taking interesting roles and doing interesting things with him. I am really digging the choices he's making in his career. Bad Bunny is great in this, and I've seen him be funny and great on SNL, so that doesn't necessarily surprise me too much. But then you've got Vincent D'Onofrio and Liev Schreiber together as a 1-2 team of, and I'm going to get this wrong, but it's like a Hasidic Jew, or there's like a real religious bent to them, but they're also like hardened killer criminals, like slit your throat kind of guys, and they are so good in this. Man, I loved this movie. I had so much fun.
This sounds more like a Guy Ritchie movie than an Aronofsky
It is
film.
kind of, you know what? It is. It kind of feels like Aronofsky, doing a Guy Ritchie kind of thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, did they use the song from Jane's Addiction, Been Caught Stealing, in this movie anywhere? Because if not, it's a real missed opportunity.
I'm not great at pulling that stuff out, so I don't remember.
I would almost guess not. I feel like Darren Aronofsky would.
That's a little too on the head for him.
Yeah, I feel like he would do that. But that's a pairing right there: Vincent D'Onofrio and Liev Schreiber. I think that's perfect.
They're so good together. I highly recommend this. It's a lot of fun. I think you're going to have a good time. And having just recently seen After Hours, it's always fun to see older Griffin Dunn show up in something and do stuff. So yeah, it's good. Check it out.
I saw trailers for this and I wanted to see it, but I was a little, I don't know, I was a little taken. I don't know what the word am I trying to come up with here. I was shied away from it basically by some of the reviews that I had been seeing on it and everything. Is this being well reviewed? Do you know? It seems like it's.
I don't know, honestly. I'd have to look it up. I mean, I guess I've got it up here. I don't know if I have the Rotten Tomatoes.
84.
Oh, it's 84.
Yeah.
Okay.
7.3 on IMDb. Yeah, 84. Yeah.
And the people, what about the people? What are they saying? Does the
According to
audience-
Google users, 92% liked this movie.
No.
So,
But it's always kills me, man. Some of these movies that have that kind of high rating between everybody, then they end up being like 4th place at the box office and everything. Like Jaws over the weekend was like the 2nd place movie. The re-release of Jaws.
Well, and Netflix throws K-pop Demon Hunters into theaters for one weekend, and it like comes out number 1 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that's how it is.
I'm afraid to even go there, man. I feel like that's a cultural tipping point for me. Like, I need to accept that I'm old. I'm not.
I loved it. I thought it was so good, but
dang. All right.
My small recommend is a documentary called "The Kid Stays in the Picture." It's based on the autobiography by Robert Evans, producer Robert Evans. I'd seen this movie before. I went to a movie night where this was one of the movies. And I've read this book too. Very interesting read and watch if you ever have time to do that. Just a little slice of movie history. But Robert Evans was a wannabe actor who had given up on acting and then was discovered by somebody in just waiting around in a pool one day who said you would be a great actor or a great look for my old husband Irving Thalberg, the old producer. And so like he got 2 parts in 1 year basically doing nothing and wasn't even looking for it. And then he just realized that he didn't really want to do this acting thing. He wanted to be the guy. The reason why this title is the way it is that he was in he was going to act in this one movie, and all the actors who were going to act with him didn't want to act with him in the movie and signed this thing saying, this is not going to be a success if Robert Evans is the lead. But then the producer got on set and Robert Evans did a scene and the guy goes, "The kid stays in the picture." And then he just left. But Robert Evans says, after that moment, I realized I wanted to be in the industry, but I wanted to be the guy who says the kid stays in the picture. I wanted to be that guy. And so it shows him, it's him narrating basically his own autobiography through all this thing. Now, you have to take a lot of things that he says in here with a grain of salt because this is a Hollywood producer talking about his own life and everything. And who knows exactly if all this stuff went down exactly as it did. But eventually he gets on to Paramount, where he is there during the time Love Story comes out and The Godfather comes out, and he's become like this big producer, and he wants to he wants to make his own movies because his deal at Paramount doesn't pay him nearly as much as that, Paramount is getting for all these movie projects that he's coming up with and everything. But one of the funniest stories in there is about how during The Godfather, they're going to see the dailies on this movie, and Francis Ford Coppola comes in. They had hired him based off of nothing. Basically, he was the only Italian American director they knew. And that's the reason why they hired him. And the movies he had done before this did not show a guy who was capable of making The Godfather. And so he came in with this movie. The original cut of The Godfather that they came in to watch on the dailies was 2 hours and 10 minutes long. And that sounds super short, doesn't it? Because yes, it is. And there's a point where they watch the movie and Robert Evans is like, "Francis, I need to come see. You need you to come to my office and talk to me." And he's like, the guy waited 30 minutes to come to my office, and the guy, we pulled him off the street, and he's given me 30 minutes before he gets into it. And he's like, "Where the hell's the rest of the picture? You filmed a saga and you gave me a trailer." And
oh wow,
and he's like it's rare for a producer to actually go to his director and say, "Hey, could you make this longer?"
Yeah.
And that's apparently one of his contributions to The Godfather. And it also talks a lot about him dating and then marrying Ally McGraw at the time, which was ill-fated because Ally McGraw ended up shooting The Getaway with Steve McQueen, and Steve McQueen and they had a big, huge affair during all of that. But this is a really good. It's a different kind of documentary because it's basically just a bunch of pictures and stuff while Robert Evans talks in that voice, that producer, that Hollywood producer voice all the way through it and everything. And it's he's got some really interesting turns of phrase in the movie and everything, but it's well worth your time, especially if you want to just like learn a few things about movie history, especially during an era where some of the greatest movies were getting made and everything. So there you go. All right, let's get on to our big recommend, and that is Iron Monkey, and it is Jeremy's turn. So Jeremy, take it away.
All right, we're going to start with an asterisk. When Miramax brought this movie to the States, they took some liberties.
You don't say.
Shocking. So they cut some stuff because they thought it was too violent in some places, and they thought it was too humorous in other places. And they rewrote a lot of the subtitles. But that is the version that is most accessible to anyone living in the U.S. I don't own the original foreign English subtitled version. But that is apparently the better version. They also wrote a new score, but the version that was available to all of our listeners, the version that I watched, that I'm going to recap now, is the version that Miramax altered when they brought it to the States. All right?
Yep.
So, Iron Monkey is a Yin Wu Ping martial arts film set in 1858, and I'm going to stop right there and tell you, yes, I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, and I'm going to still give it a valiant effort. Where the Chinese countryside is being ravaged by warlords and terrible flooding. The text tells us the cities therefore became crowded with peasants who had fled the countryside, and they came to the cities looking for food and the protection provided by the Shaolin monks, martial arts masters. But instead, they found corrupt leaders and danger around every corner. But in the town of Chekiang, a hero rose to defend the people, the Iron Monkey. We next see the Iron Monkey himself, dressed and masked in all black, hopping across rooftops. Then at the governor's palace, we see 4 Shaolin monks being brought food by Chief Fox and his men. But they scold him for caring more about food than security. And those are some dedicated monks to turn down free dim sum. And I will pause here to mention that one of my favorite things about this movie is how focused on food it is, and not just for food's sake, but it is part of the themes and the plot in many ways. Chief Fox gives the food to the rest of his men. Next, he takes the shark fin soup to the governor's chambers, where the governor is playing, I think, hide and seek, it might be tag, under the covers with some female companions. But he sends the soup away, and that is a dedicated pajama party haver to be turning down free shark fin soup. Suddenly, someone shouts, "There!" And all the men come running and shoot arrows and down a bird, which makes Chief Fox very happy because foxes like to eat birds, but also because it means his new trap to catch the Iron Monkey is working. If not even a yummy bird can escape it. But just then the Iron Monkey appears and picks apart the soldiers until the 4 Shaolin monks show up, at which point the monkey runs inside the building. The monks follow, but Chief Fox thinks it's a trick and tells his men to hold their ground, but also he doesn't want to go in there because someone will steal his dead bird. I don't know why I kept going with that for so long. The monkey is too much for the monks, and as he flits and floats above them, ridiculing them for believing themselves to be righteous, while multi-kicking them in the head. The soldiers finally bust in once the governor gets alarmed about the monkey being in his house, and in one of my favorite moves in the movie, the Iron Monkey spins on his side on a table to clear a dozen men around him. When the Iron Monkey is then in the middle of the chamber, Chief Fox brings another trap, because foxes also like to eat monkeys, as rope walls create a makeshift cage, momentarily trapping our hero. But ultimately, he just uses a knife to cut it, and then he Jedi jumps through the goddamn ceiling onto the roof and escapes, not through a pre-existing hole in the ceiling, mind you. He creates the hole with the power of his jump. In the aftermath, the governor goes to examine his special trinkets when Chief Fox interrupts him. And the governor spots what he thinks is remnants of his shark fin soup on the chief's face and slaps him and docks his pay and the pay of his men. When a soldier walks in that is suspiciously hiding his face and says that the Iron Monkey got away, Chief Fox approaches him. But then it turns out to be the Iron Monkey. He sweep kicks Chief Fox, steals the governor's special trinkets, and leaves through the same hole he just created a moment ago. The monkey leaves behind a knife letter thanking the governor for the donation to the refugees and tells him to open the storehouses and give more food to the peasants, or you'll see more of me. The next day, Chief Fox meets with two shady guys that want to open a brothel, and they give a gift for the governor, but Chief Fox doesn't accept it because he's afraid the Iron Monkey might steal it. Next, we meet Dr. Yang, who could not possibly be more obviously the Iron Monkey if he tried, but I don't think the movie is trying to hide that. Anyway, he's treating two patients at once and even writes their prescriptions at the same time, one with each hand. He charges the rich patient, but not the poor patient, which pisses off the rich patient because the rich like to eat the poor, and also they hate to see anyone being given anything for free. Chief Fox comes to visit Dr. Yang, and we learn that they're kind of friendly. Miss Orchid enters, and it's clear she's a manic pixie kung fu nurse because these dreamlike chords start playing when she enters, and everyone adores her. As she feeds the sick patients, Dr. Yang treats Fox for his injuries from the previous night fighting until the brothel bros come in looking for women they can kidnap to serve as hookers in their brothel, but Chief Fox stands up to them. They bribe him with gold, which he takes, but then he has them arrested. Later that night, as Dr. Yang and Miss Orchid close the front of the clinic by placing tall wooden boards next to one another, creating a fence that isn't connected to any other parts of itself, I gotta say, I expected 1858 home security in China to be a little better than this. Anyway, some wind blows and tosses papers into the air, which allows them to have a little kung fu ballet of paper retrieval in a scene that is designed to show us their bond, but also foreshadow that Miss Orchid might just be a martial arts badass herself. And in another one of my favorite moves in this movie, a single last falling paper before him, Dr. Yang whips the base of his robe, creating the perfect little mini breeze to neatly land that paper on the stack in his hand. Next, we see the Iron Monkey deliver bags of gold to several groups of peasants around the city before he sees Miss Orchid on the roof dressed in all black like him, and she's come to join him in his vigilante ways. The next day, the governor gets a letter from the capital telling him the royal minister is coming to the city. So he orders troops to arrest anyone that could be the Iron Monkey. So they start arresting people jumping, people selling monkey powder, people scratching their face. And this is when we get introduced to two more important characters, Wang Ke-ying and his son, Wang Fei-hong. Wang Ke-ying is also a physician, but also a renowned martial arts expert. We see that he is a tough father, rebuking his son for behaving too young and insisting the boy recite his medicinal cure tables. Wang Fei-hong, the boy, sees a bully mistreating some kids and shoots a rock at him, which leads to a fight where Wang Ke-ying uses an umbrella in a violent enough fashion to inspire Matthew Vaughn 20-some years later. And yes, that is a Colin Firth Kingsman's reference. Wang Ke-ying and his son are arrested by guards who think he could be the Iron Monkey. All the suspected monkeys are then brought before the governor in what I'm just going to call the throne room. It seems like he's on a throne. This is a setting that features prominently in the movie. I'm just going to go with throne room. But before the governor can literally brand Wang Fei-hong in the arm, the real Iron Monkey appears, and Wang Ke-ying fights him, believing his vigilantism to be wrong. They fight to a draw before the monkey escapes, but not before the Iron Monkey calls the governor a disgrace and slashes off one of his eyebrows. The governor is impressed with Wang Ke-ying and basically decides to hold his son hostage and force him to hunt and apprehend the Iron Monkey. He gives him 7 days. Dejected, Wang Ke-ying wanders the city looking for food, but finds the business owners angry at him for fighting the Iron Monkey. And I don't know how word spreads this fast in an age before photographs, but I digress. He ends up on the steps outside of Dr. Yang's clinic, dejected, until Miss Orchid takes pity on him and invites him in for dinner. He's so hungry he starts eating the veggies while she's still cooking, and has a reaction to the special local hot peppers, not unlike the reaction I had to the lowest heat level of hot chicken at Bolton's in Nashville back in 2014. He then volunteers to help cook and does a little cook fu before Dr. Yang arrives and does one of the coolest things I've ever seen done with a sharp blade and a chunk of dough. What he actually does is he slices the dough as he moves away from the hot wok, with each newly cut long noodle landing directly in the wok. At dinner, Wang Ke-ying tells the two about the situation with the Iron Monkey and his son's imprisonment. He thanks them for the meal and abruptly leaves. The next day, Dr. Yang and Miss Orchid go to visit the child, and Chief Fox decides to let him leave the prison because he's sick and go into Dr. Yang's care at the clinic. Later that night, Wang Ke-ying is out on the rooftop searching for the Iron Monkey, but across the way, inexplicably, Chief Fox is sitting on the roof having soup and beckons the man to come share a snack, and he does. The scene is important because it allows Chief Fox to tell him that he's going to look out for his son, which gives Wong Ke-ying a bit of peace before suddenly a band of thugs with a wrapped-up person scurry by on a nearby roof, and I really did not realize how much roofs in 1858 China doubled as roads. Anyway, he goes after them, thinking one of them might be the Iron Monkey. As Wong Ke-ying fights the 4 thugs, Chief Fox unfolds the blanket to reveal that the men had kidnapped a woman before one of the thugs attacks him and knocks Chief Fox out. Wong Ke-ying recognizes that his opponents are using Shaolin Kung Fu, but they refuse to answer him. They attack with knives, and he uses only his shoulder to take one of them out. He demasks one of them and realizes they are or used to be monks. And then, my dear friends, comes my single favorite moment in the entire film, as Wong Ke-ying draws a literal line in the sand with his right foot before deploying his shadow kick technique against the next assailant, kicking him in the face easily 10 times inside of 2 seconds. At this point, I traditionally rewind the movie and watch that kick over and over again before moving on. He dispatches the rest of the group before they all run at the arrival of the next boss level up, a woman I call the Grabber, who is a step-up Shaolin monk warrior with iron hands. Not literally iron, but in Kung Fu, you typically strengthen the part of your body and call it iron something. I didn't make it up. It's a real thing. Anyway, the Grabber absolutely hates the scaffolding in this place and starts ripping it apart to throw and kick at Wong Ke-ying. When she deploys Super Eagle's Claw, he recognizes that she's a student of the Shaolin trader Hin Hung. She replies that the Shaolin are now aligned with the royal minister. As the entire scaffolding collapses above them, both combatants jump out to opposite sides, and for tonight, the fight is a draw. Back at Dr. Yang's, he and Miss Orchid treat Wong Fei-hong's illness, and one night while putting him to sleep, he drearily says, "I know who you are," which gives them both pause, but then really doesn't ever come back into play. Then Miss Orchid has a memory that has entirely too much blue filter laid over it to signify that it's a flashback. Like, oh my God, levels of blue. But it's her giving birth to a stillborn baby only to have Dr. Yang redeem her debt to her owners and rescue her. In the next scene, the royal minister arrives at the governor's mansion, though eagle-eyed viewers will quickly realize this is just Dr. Yang and Miss Orchid in disguise. It's also weird that anyone would think the royal minister would travel with just a single assistant. Though they do flash the royal fan, which is apparently a literal fan owned by the royal minister and not the last surviving fan of the Kansas City Royals. Whatever, the point is that the pair of heroes bluff their way through this encounter, including an ingenious bit where they have planted a note from the Iron Monkey into the briefcase to explain the missing official seal and order Chief Fox to beat on the governor. And they end up leaving with a ton of bribery money and order the governor to open the storehouses and feed the people. Back at Dr. Yang's, Wong Fei-hong wakes up, finds, I think, his dad's umbrella, and not so stealthily steals a vase and then leaves Miss Orchid an apology letter saying he's going to go sell the pills to find his father. He goes into the street and starts selling the pills, but the bullies his father beat up earlier arrive, and a wonderful little fight happens where we see that Wong Fei-hong is pretty damn good with the kicking and umbrella fighting himself. And I love how the shopkeeper tells the kid, "Hey, that was an expensive table bag from the bully," and says, "Is this enough?" And the guy's like, "More than enough." So he goes, "This will make us even," and breaks another table with another bad guy. Just a super charming little action sequence, but we have not even begun to see what this little dude can do, even though he's actually being played by a girl. But then the bully's boss shows up, and the fight gets a little more serious, and it's clear that the kid is outmatched in raw power, but he uses his wits and his size to his advantage for a while. But just as he's about to get beat, Miss Orchid shows up and knocks out the bad guy with a rock, and they escape. Next, the real royal minister arrives and immediately takes over the throne room and summons the governor, who of course does not believe this is the real royal minister since he has already visited. But he is quickly corrected and ordered to bring some chicken and shark fin soup for the royal minister to eat. And I've never had shark fin soup. Sounds disgusting to me, but apparently it is a delicacy. Next, Wong Fei-hong watches Dr. Yang doing drills with a staff and then takes his turn doing it. He's a quick learner. Then his father arrives and immediately scolds him for his appearance, but then grabs his hand as they walk after having earlier shaken Fei-hong's hand off when the child tried to grab his. At dinner, they play a robust game of duck, duck, refuse, where Wong Ke-ying doesn't want his child to eat the roast duck, even though there's a doctor right there telling him the boy needs protein, until finally Fei-hong is allowed to eat the damn thing. Later that night, we see the governor in drab clothes in the streets, having been sent packing by the royal minister. I'm not even sure we ever see him again. Somewhere nearby, a woman cries because she can't bury her husband. Iron Monkey shows up to give her money for a burial, only for her to turn out to be the Grabber. and the dead husband is actually her accomplice, a man I shall call Johnny Two Swords. This was all a trap. They give him more trouble than the usual thugs, but it's still pretty clear Iron Monkey is better than them. But just as he's leaving and insulting them, their boss jumps through the wall, and it's the royal minister. And he gets the monkey off their back by doing the Buddha's paw move on the monkey's back. Iron Monkey tries to retreat, but the royal minister follows, telling him he only has 30 minutes before the poison will kill him. Some bells are tripped, alerting Wong Kei-ying to activity nearby, and he goes and intercepts and fights the royal minister, who reveals himself to be the disgraced Shaolin monk Hin Hung, who betrayed the order to become the emperor's henchman. Kei-ying tries the shadow kick trick again, but this time his opponent is too good and blocks every kick. The royal minister tries the Buddha's palm again, but this time Kei-ying blocks it before eventually escaping. Luckily for Iron Monkey, he himself is a doctor, and he knows how to treat the Buddha's palm poison, instructing Miss Orchid on what to do, spelling out the literal recipe for the antidote. When Wong Kei-ying arrives, he soon discovers that Dr. Yang is the Iron Monkey, and after first appearing angry, he softens when Miss Orchid and Fei Hong plead with him, and he remembers how good Yang and Orchid have been to him and his son. While he and his son write down some medical meditation type recipe thing, we also learn that one of the royal minister's talents is painting people's faces super accurately after fighting with them for 2 minutes in the street at night when it's dark, as he draws a poster with Dr. Yang's face on it. But it's not to mass produce posters so that person can be found. It's just so the royal minister can throw sharp things at it in anger. And that is very weird. Hin Hung then orders his men to check all the clinics because clearly the men he fought last night are both injured. And that's pretty smart. Honestly, he should have done that immediately. Cut to Yang Clinic, where he and Kei-ying are super healed already, as Yang tells the story of why the city needed Iron Monkey in the first place. And it's a lot like Batman, honestly, because Iron Monkey's dad was killed by corrupt criminals, and he speaks wistfully about hoping one day to have honest officials so the Iron Monkey can retire. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door, and Miss Orchid goes to check, but it's Chief Fox, because foxes like to eat orchids. I didn't realize I kept that joke going. But also, he's there to tell her the royal minister wants Dr. Yang and Wong Kei-ying arrested. And when she plays innocent, he indicates he already knew Dr. Yang was the Iron Monkey. And oh my God, there's only 20 minutes left. I do want to give a moment to the hilarious river of tears that come out of the young actor's eyes during the crying because I'm saying goodbye to my dad moment. It's an astonishing amount of liquid. Kei-ying scolds his son for crying, only to turn around and shed a tear himself. And I love this movie, but this is a pretty toxic father thing happening here. I know the movie's trying for the stern father, tough love thing, but a strong man sheds blood before he sheds tears is some grade A toxic masculinity. Just as soon as the two men leave, the original 4 Shaolin monks from the first scene of the governor's mansion knock on the door before knocking the door down entirely. It happens so quickly after the men leave, it's hard for me to believe they didn't hear it, but I am definitely down with the scene that lets Miss Orchid kick some ass. And it's a great fight scene, and I love her style of fighting, which I have termed, I am completely unbothered by all of this, tiger stance. She's so nonchalant with her poses and facial expressions and even her movements, a contrast to almost every other fighter in this film. Then one of the monks uses a sleeping powder on her, which I have to believe is a party foul in the land of Kung Fu, something that is generally considered unsportsmanlike, kind of like biting in boxing or bunting in baseball. Anyway, the powder works, and these assholes are about to do evil shit to this lovely woman when thankfully Wong Fei Hong decides to step in, and this is probably my second favorite scene in the entire movie. The kid actor just nails the moves, the line delivery, and the faces. It's just a delightful scene to watch the staff weapon drills from earlier come back into play in an actual fight, which also shows how rapidly Fei Hong adapted and improved his fighting. And it should be noted that Wong Fei Hong is the more famous of he and his father in real Chinese lore, and he's considered a folk hero. And they even made the movie Once Upon a Time in China before this about him as an adult, and that was Jet Li playing him. Anyway, I especially like the sequence where he makes the guy dance by tapping the rod at his feet left and right, left and right, left and right, and then smacks him on the chin. But then that grabber shows up, and she is clearly too much for Fei Hong, though he does try his best. She eventually knocks him out instead of killing him. Miss Orchid then goes to where Yang and Kei-ying are and tells them about all these events. We then see that the royal minister Hin Hung is having the boy hung and tortured in the throne room. Not hung like killed hung, but dangled. As Chief Fox shakes his head and tries to appeal for the boy's life, but Johnny Two Swords attacks Chief Fox, and eventually Chief Fox is about to be killed when the Iron Monkey appears. And it's clear to us viewers that this Iron Monkey is actually Wong Kei-ying. Everyone starts fighting, And at one point, the royal minister spits a cherry at Wong Kei-ying that embeds in the body of the henchman Kei-ying was fighting. And the real Iron Monkey shows up, and now it's go time, as there are two of them to contend with. And it's kind of hilarious that they both had to run back to the clinic to change clothes before this rescue could take place. The original monkey severs the chain, holding Fei Hong up. But before Kei-ying can grab him, Hin Hung uses his Doctor Strange cloak to retrieve the boy. With the kid lying on the table in front of the throne, Grabber and Johnny Two Swords attack the two Iron Monkeys. And that's just silly, because the real Iron Monkey already defeated those two just by himself before he got cheap shot Buddha Palm. Wait, was that last night that happened? Shit, it might even be the same night. Has the sun even come up since that fight? I don't think it has. Anyway, just as Hin Hung was about to Buddha Palm the kid, Lady Monkey, a.k.a. Miss Orchid, who is dressed in all black and somehow completely cured of all that sleeping powder from a half hour ago, appears and throws knives at the Hin Hung. I said the Hin Hung like he's an article. Who uses one of his concubines as a human shield, allowing time for Chief Fox to pull the boy off the table. There's another amazing sequence I want to point out in the side fight between Yang and Grabber, where he stops her sword with a flat palm, slaps the other palm on the other side of the sword, runs them both down the length of the sword to her face, and then side punches in her face like 6 times really fast. And I love that. Yang tells Orchid and Kei-ying to get the boy out of there, and actually says about the royal minister, I can handle him, which is a weird thing to say about a man who nearly killed you. Wait, was that last night that happened? Shit, this might even be the same night. Has the sun even come up since that fight? I don't think it has. Anyway, outside, Orchid and Kei-ying take out the Grabber using the very common metal ball to the eye, followed by being kicked through a wall technique. I'm surprised we don't see that combo more often in movies, since it's so storied and obviously super effective. As everyone escapes and runs away, the royal minister crashes through a wall and confronts them all in the street. As Chief Fox and Orchid take Fei Hong to hide, Yang and Kei-ying attack. But Hin Hung throws Dr. Yang through a whole-ass wall into a field of clotheslines. It's clear Hin Hung is stronger than both of them, but they persist, even as the fighting causes a massive fire to break out, causing all 3 combatants to jump up to the tops of the burning city block full of blankets and clotheslines on fire, with the fighters having to balance on the tops of wooden beams that are themselves also on fire. Also, they didn't actually take Fei Hong to hide. They're standing right outside watching this fight, and it makes my head hurt. Regardless, I love the final fight. I love how everyone holds themselves up, defying gravity with forearm strength or toe strength. I love how the heroes keep nonchalantly tapping on their on-fire clothing to put the fires out. I love the luck. I love the fire, which helps the fighting surface be even more dangerous than just being balancing on sticks. I love them balancing on the broken top of the pole after it breaks off. I love the sweat on everyone's face from the heat. And I love the trapeze on the shoulders landing. And them being tossed staves to vault out of the fire while the royal minister burns. I love it all. Fight me. Days later at the train station, Chief Fox shows up to say goodbye to Wong Fei Hong and Wong Kei-ying. As the new governor arrives, they all share hopes for the future and say their goodbyes. And Kei-ying grabs Fei Hong's hand as they walk away. And the end title card tells us that, holy shit, Dr. Yang and Miss Orchid were lovers after all, or became lovers later. I don't know. Another title card says Fei Hong grew up to be one of China's greatest heroes who helped lead the rebellion against the Qing dynasty. And that, my friends, is the Iron Monkey. What did you guys think?
I can't remember if I had seen this movie before, but I did have it on Blu-ray. It is the American Blu-ray, so it is the same version that you saw. But it was pretty clear once I saw Miramax on this, there was a reason why, and this is before we all knew what a monster Harvey Weinstein was later on, but he was a monster in another way, and that he was called Harvey Scissorhands, and he would always cut things down for whatever reason, for whatever stupid reason he was thinking of, and whatever. But it was pretty apparent from the get-go that this was cut. I haven't seen the original, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this feels it's fast paced, but it's faster paced than I think the original filmmakers and the filmmakers intended.
Right.
So that I'm not shocked to hear that they had cut some stuff out. And it's such a hypocritical thing too, considering what Miramax was coming out with in this era and everything like that. If it was a matter of length, well, they came out with Pulp Fiction the following year. If it was violence, they had Reservoir Dogs the previous year. I mean, it's just like, it's whatever reason they came up with for cutting it is, I'm almost certain they let go in other movies and everything.
Sure.
If your name wasn't Quentin Tarantino, who was the guy who presented this in the United States, if you weren't Quentin Tarantino, you weren't going to get that your own self, which is weird though. You would think Quentin Tarantino would be like, yeah, let's keep it the way it is. And I don't know why. He must not have had any power in the situation at the time. So very weird. So yes, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I really love the action in this. I like, and it's nothing new. We've seen it in Robin Hood and Zorro and things like that, but I like setting up criminals as the people who are actually good. And, and that, what clearly defines law doesn't necessarily mean good or moral, especially in this case where everybody's corrupt, everybody in power is corrupt. It just kind of shows like, yeah, this is a lawbreaker, but that doesn't always mean a bad thing in certain circumstances. So I thought that was illustrated pretty brilliantly later when Donnie Yen is trying to buy stuff after fighting with the Iron Monkey and the vendors won't sell him anything. They're just like, no, I mean, the Iron Monkey, he's a lawbreaker, but he's our lawbreaker, basically. You mentioned a lot of this in the synopsis, but I like how Dr. Yang gives medicine to the poor guy and makes the rich guy buy his, even appealing to his ego by saying, I can give you a cheaper drug if you like. And the guy's like, no, I can afford it. And, and I know for some people that's just pure communism. I kind of agree with this communism, by the way. I like how the security guy takes the bribe and sends the guy who bribed him to jail. That's really funny to me. You mentioned the sequence where they're grabbing all the floating flyers. I think that's just a great cinematic piece. That's really, really fun and beautiful. Donnie Yen and the umbrella. Again, just in general, just watching Donnie Yen, I love doing that. I love watching Donnie Yen. I love that he kicks that dude like 20 times in just a few seconds. I think that you brought that up. It's obviously sped up, but whatever. Just love it. I love the part in the flashback where the dude is about to kill Miss Orchid and she just closes her eyes and just ready to accept it. And she's a badass. Her signature fight in this it might be my favorite part in this. It ends a little bit too soon with the sleeping powder. I kind of wish they didn't do it, especially considering, like you said, she recovers from that sleeping powder pretty quickly. She's taken out of the action and then she's able to walk wherever where they are and tell them, hey, monks came and took your kid and all that. But in that fight, she has that kick where she does the somersault and kicks the other guy behind her. And then that part with the spinning table that's like sitting there just, hitting people and just kind of going, it has a mind of its own or whatever. One thing, and I don't know if this is a cultural thing or what, but and it could be just that they cut stuff like this out of the movie. I mean, who knows? But I don't think Iron Monkey ever struggles with the idea that his actions are also hurting others. I'm not saying he's wrong, but it feels like it would weigh heavily on you that other people are going to jail because the corrupt government thinks that they are you or whatever. And I guess you could kind of get over that by saying, well, that's just them, that's what else is new? The people's lives are already horrible anyway. So whatever, but we don't ever really see him feel any guilt or anything about that. And I also think that his actions are leading to people around the town thinking that stealing is okay under any context, because Donnie Yen comes in and they try to steal from him and he's like, and they're like, what's wrong with stealing? Basically. And it doesn't seem like that ever comes up either, that he doesn't think to himself, I'm stealing for a good reason, but it seems like it's filtered down to other people.
Well, you see, in the sequel, when the Joker shows up, Alfred's going to teach him the lesson about how he caused the Joker by being Iron Monkey.
Yes. I damn it, I need to see that sequel. Wong Fei-hung, you mentioned this. He's played as a kid in this movie. Huge folk hero in China. Has been portrayed in a ton of movies. Very much enjoy his big fight scene in the middle of the movie. Also using an umbrella. Love when he says, "My kung fu is pretty good." After that first fight. The fight after Miss Orchid, you brought this up too, gets taken out of it with the sleeping powder. He's using that bow stick in a lot of creative ways. I like using it. I like when he uses it to break the tube with the powder in it, and he's saying all these things like the snake goes into the hole and all that other type of stuff. The final fight is great. I love the staging on the poles at the end with the fire all around. I wouldn't change a thing about it. It is a little hard to take seriously though, when all these fighters have shown that they defy physics regularly. So like, when they're sitting there like, I'm hanging up on these poles, I better not fall. I'm like, we've just seen a bunch of you motherfuckers jump from the floor through the roof in some scenes. And so like you could have easily navigated that and just gotten onto the roofs or something like that and not worried about it. But anyway, I did really like this movie. I would love to see the uncut version of it someday.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start there then, because I think I did see the uncut version. I just found last night when I was doing some research, I was like, oh, there's two versions. I wonder which one I watched. And the main thing that I saw was running time was about 5 minutes different, and that the uncut version doesn't have the Quentin Tarantino presents at the front of it or whatever. And the version I watched was longer, was 5 minutes longer, and it doesn't have that Quentin Tarantino thing. So it's quite possible I watched a different version than you. Again, that is just based on my little bit of sleuthing last night as I was trying to figure out what I watched. And I will say this, the movie I watched was hilarious. Like, it was Looney Tunes hilarious throughout most of it, through sound effects and just a lot of the stuff that was happening. There's a moment you mentioned, and I'll bring it up as an example of just what is throughout this movie. And again, I don't think so much has been changed that this tone still isn't there. And in fact, both of you guys talk about how funny this movie is at points. But Jeremy, in your description, you mentioned the concubine being used as a human shield. She goes on to be used as a weapon. Like, he throws that concubine at him, and then she's kicked back to him.
Yeah, and in this version, she comically gets kicked off the screen. It's very hilarious, but that doesn't come back into play at all. Like, I don't think that, Jeremy, that doesn't happen in our version, does it?
No.
Okay, well, there you go.
Once she gets kicked off the screen, it's hilarious because it's the way it's presented. But there's nothing else after that. And I'm sitting there going, how can you cut something that brilliant out of a movie? I mean,
so funny. Hilarious. And the movie is full of that kind of stuff. It also, my understanding is, it is often the original version was much more what they call undercranked, like a lot of sped up martial arts action and during different moments. And they actually slowed some of that down in the editing, although there's still a couple, from what it sounds like you guys were saying, moments that are sped up in that way. But I don't know. It was one of those experiences for me where, well, I'll just say this. Martial arts movies haven't been my favorite kinds of movies, and some of that has to do with violence, whatever. But Jackie Chan I love, and it was always the sense of humor. It was always the understanding of how silly, how ridiculous all this stuff can be and how fun it can be. And that's what this movie is. It is ridiculous. It is fun. The guy uses his sleeve as some sort of solid weapon that just expands against the laws of, like, he breaks a wall with the end of his sleeve ribbon. I don't know, like, what's going on half the time here.
It got iron sleeves.
Yeah,
must exactly. Be. I think my favorite scene is the papers. Recapturing the papers between the two of them. I think it's really beautiful and interesting and fun, but there's a lot of really fun, innovative, ways to play with props and different things within fights. I had a blast watching this movie. You guys mentioned most of the other stuff I have here. One of my favorite lines was "Fight poison with poison." What a brilliant doctor! It's just like, how did nobody else think of fighting poison with poison? Makes so double the poison. That works.
I never would have thought of that. He says.
Well, in the chat, I'm noticing a thing about the dubbing, and that's the other thing about this version that I'm sure the same thing happened for Jeremy's version. They are doing a different dub of, even though it's in Mandarin or Cantonese, I can't remember which if they use both or what, but when it's clear that their mouths don't match up with the actual,
right. Interesting.
and they're speaking the actual language, so it's not like a bad English dub or whatever. It's just so like in your version, everything was good.
Oh, they were clearly saying, I didn't sense anything was dubbed.
Where the hell did you find that version?
Well, there are ways and there are ways.
I see.
But
most of our listeners, I can't encourage those ways.
You don't know what ways I'm talking about, but
if you're not willing to say them, then
the Iron Monkey would approve these ways, probably.
Probably, yeah. Steal from the rich to give to the poor. That's what I say.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had down. I thought the pole dancing at the end was great. The hottest pole dancing I've seen since J-Lo was in Hustlers. So yeah, there you go. Iron Monkey, good stuff.
There was hotter pole dancing in that movie than J-Lo. What?
What?
Huh? Shall we dissect?
Yes. Let's go on to our super secret double feature. And I'm going to go ahead and say mine. It has been said. It was said in the synopsis. I just saw this movie, Once Upon a Time in China. It's kind of like when you watch Iron Monkey. It's interesting. It's kind of like the prequel for Wong Fei-hung, and
I think it was actually intended to be that. Yeah.
Yeah, complete with umbrella fight, which is something that Jet Li does in Once Upon a Time in China. I think a lot of these filmmakers have made Wong Fei-hung movies. I'm pretty sure that Ying Wo-ping did Drunken Master was Jackie Chan as that character, but Shui Hark, the TSUI Hark, I think it's like Shui, something like that, who unfortunately, like a lot of people who came from Hong Kong over to here trying to make American movies, faced the same challenges as everybody else did. John Woo may have been the only one who really got a few good movies out. And everybody else, like stars and directors, were always getting pigeonholed in these one things. Shui Hark did the movie Double Team, the Dennis Rodman, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie that was awful. And he did another Jean-Claude Van Damme movie after that. But Shui Hark was the producer and writer of this film, and he also directed and wrote Once Upon a Time in China. So there's a lot of like parallels between those two movies, obviously. So it was hard for me to go against that. There's plenty others, obviously, that can go along.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
I went with one that has also been passingly mentioned. Like you have said, there are many different versions of this kind of character, and most cultures have a version of this character who is a person of the people breaking the law to help the people, whether it be Robin Hood or the one I went with, which is Mask of Zorro. I think is a good double feature here. A lot of the same feel, a lot of the same, pretending to be who you're not, and interacting with the people in both forms of who you are. So yeah, Mask of Zorro is my double feature.
And I also considered at one time Batman, but then it was like, which Batman? Maybe Batman Begins probably goes along with this one more than any other one, but there was a thought of maybe putting Batman in this, but yeah. Anyway, Yeah, I think that's a really good choice.
Yeah, those are both good choices.
All right. So what's we got next week's homework, and it's Aaron's turn. So what are we doing next week, Aaron?
I would like to tell you about a woman named Ellen Huer. Ellen Huer is a Foley artist. She has done almost 400 movies, 396 movies, starting with Annie in 1982 all the way up to the present day. She is a writer, a stand-up comedian, and a Foley artist. She has done Foley work on such movies as Iron Monkey and movies. What did we talk about last week? It's
Broadcast News.
Broadcast News. She did Broadcast News. She did Iron Monkey, and she is the connection this week to The Fifth Element. She also did Foley work on The Fifth Element. So Fifth Element
Nice.
will be.
I thought you were giving us a documentary about a Foley artist.
Yeah, me too.
It's crazy the amount of movies she has done. So I thought I'd bring her name up. It's amazing what the IMDb collaboration search will bring up. So. Yeah.
Well, this appears to be on Tubi. Go ahead, Chris.
This movie's batshit.
It is.
And it's the good kind of batshit, but it's batshit.
Yeah, it is. It is Luc Besson before Luc Besson went full Luc Besson. In some other movies.
I don't know. I always considered this full Luc Besson.
This is pretty maximum Luc Besson, man. I mean,
all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I considered this about as full Luc Besson as it gets, but
I mean, if we're talking about his directorial style, yes.
Yeah,
we're talking about him being a creep. It probably started earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to watching this one again. It's been a second since I've seen The Fifth Element, probably since we seen the movie. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is prime Bruce Willis too, and Gary Oldman's fantastic in it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right, that is going to do it for this week. Chat, once again, thank you so much for coming out here today. We appreciate you very much. Next week's movie is The Fifth Element, and we will see you next time. See ya.
Bye everybody.
Bye.